Using his freedom of speech to its fullest extent, it's John James and Freedom's Pep Rally. Now, America's friendliest host, your buddy, John James.
I am pleased to have on the show a very special guest. His name is Kevin McGary, and he is a co-founder of Every Black Life Matters. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Well, good morning, John. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you are you're amazing. I've heard some of your story. In fact, I saw an interview that you did with Will Kane on Fox and Friends recently. In fact, we played a little bit of that earlier. And I'm going to ask you the same question that Will Kane asked you, because you explained it so well and it really hit home. Now, this is the answer, basically. I think that would be a good way to phrase it. The answer to Black Lives Matter is your organization you co-founded, Every Black Life Matters. What is the difference between the two organizations?
Yeah, fundamentally, the difference between our organizations is this. We saw the rage, the carnage, the hatred, the violence going on last summer after the George Floyd incident. Everybody had a range of emotions that transpired after the 9 minutes and 40 some odd seconds of what we saw. And but those emotions ranged from going in the street and having legitimate protests to tearing up streets and tearing up communities and setting black and brown businesses on fire and going out and actually rioting. And what hurt us so much was that we saw a lot of people of faith and churches that were going out and literally participating in the tearing down of black and brown communities and setting black and brown businesses aflame, along with BLM. And so we said, well, okay, the reality is when those people go back home and they do a little research and they figure out what BLM really stands for and realize that BLM is a Marxist organization,
right,
and they are really completely antithetical to what people of faith stand for, those people are going to want a righteous and faithful alternative. They're still going to want to stand up for Black life, but they're going to want a righteous and faithful alternative. And we want to be that alternative, because there is serious Black plight. There is disproportional Black plight. It goes well beyond just police brutality. I mean, police brutality is that's a very, very narrow, very, it doesn't even address a fraction of Black life. So the other thing that we wanted to address is there are some real issues within Black life that really are really do need to be brought forward and addressed. And we wanted to actually stand up a legitimate, faithful, and righteous alternative to BLM that was really about tearing down barriers to success within the Black community, and that's why we're here.
That's so well put. Can you hear me okay, Kevin? I just want to make sure.
Well, not really. I mean, your volume's down a little bit, but okay. I'm squinting and I'm hearing. I'm doing my best.
Okay, no, I brought it up a little bit. I just try to find a balance here on
okay,
the air.
I hear you better now. Yeah.
Good. Okay, this is great. Now, this is anytime I call this our Black Voices Matter series, and we have done this since after George Floyd, and I love to learn different aspects of why the Black communities and Black Americans are in such a plight. And I like to talk to people who are very objective, critical thinkers like yourself. Why is there, I mean, the police brutality? We know police brutality in a lot of cases is present. And it doesn't matter a lot of times whether the assailant is black or white or Asian or anything else. And the thing that always seems to come out to some of these violent encounters, not all of them, is resisting arrest. But is there an inordinate amount of police brutality against black people, or is that somewhat a myth that is pushed and amplified by people like BLM and Joy Reid on MSNBC and others?
Well, I think that all professions have, if you look at the spectrum of professions, you're going to have your percentage of people that are outside of the norm. You have your percentage of people that are, quite honestly, nut jobs.
Yeah.
And all of our professions.
Yeah.
People that are, they march by different feet, quite honestly. And, law enforcement is no different. And so you're going to have people that are going to be that are going to stretch outside of the norms of what normal law enforcement officers and their appropriate jurisdiction should do. And I think when you see those instances of police brutality and the types of things that we are catching on our video cams and those things, those are those officers that are really stretching appropriateness. And you're going to, quite honestly, since you have millions of law enforcement officers in the various realms, when you include sheriffs, the police, and all of the other law enforcement officers, you're going to get your percentages of those types of things happening. So, you're just going to get those percentages. But I don't think it's any different than any other profession. Your percentage-wise, nut jobs just happen because we're all human, and
right.
You're going to have your percentage of people, and as part of the human experience, that are just marching by a slightly different beat than some of the rest of us. That's all.
Absolutely. I mean, that you put it so well. I mean, we're all human. We are imperfect. But it just seems to me oftentimes like the radicals are trying to convince other radicals that they are going to be able to create the perfect society. And they're doing it. They're trying to do it by tearing down the society we currently have. Have we, in your mind, Kevin McGary, been making progress as we go along? And are they removing all the progress we made right now, the radical people on the left, by pushing these false narratives?
Well, I think we were making progress up until approximately 12 years ago, and you can do the math and figure out who was in office when a lot of this racial discord started to be really, really pushed again.
Yeah.
And brought forward and used as a narrative in practically every paradigm and every domain. And it was really heavily being pushed. And now we have a lens for racism, we have a lens for sexism, we have a lens for genderism in practically every realm. Every faction is being brought forward and is pushing us forward to this sort of, Marxist chaos. There's a very good reason for this. I mean, globalism is ultimately where they want to push us. And the only way to really push us there is to get every faction at arms and push us into this sort of chaotic situation, so we can have the I don't want to sound conspiratorial. I mean, it's all well positioned. If you look at Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and all that they've been doing, you understand the Great Reset and how we get there. But anyway, so there's reasons why these things are happening and why they're pushing so hard at this. But the point is that this has sort of been in the making. This race discord is just part of how they have to do it at the moment. I would encourage that the reason why we're Every Black Life Matters, for us, it's not about superiority. For us, it's about divisive. And we say, no, 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 it's not about us being divisive. This is a statement of, we're just trying to make a statement that we want you to view blacks as equivalent and as with everybody else. And the reason why we say every black life matters is because when Margaret Sanger said, we don't want the word to get out, but we want to fully exterminate the Negro population.
Right.
She didn't say that about any other. She just said that strictly about the black population, and she's done, unfortunately, a masterful job at trying to see that vision come forward via her Planned Parenthood organization that are up to 90% in all black communities. And so because they've done such a masterful job, we have a disproportional extermination of blacks across the country. And so when we bring every black life matters, for us, it's a statement that helps everybody understand, look, if you believe that every life matters or all life matters, great. We're actually saying the same thing. You must believe then that every black life matters, because that is the one segment that's being disproportionately eliminated at a much higher rate than every other ethnicity here in America. And so that's a statement of equivalency. We just want to come up and be born at the exact same rate that every other ethnicity has the privilege of being born. That's what we're saying.
Absolutely. And yeah, Margaret Sanger, the mother of abortion, I guess you could call her. Now, why are so many black children being exterminated? And you put it brilliantly. That's exactly what I say. It basically is murder. And oh no, it's just a clump of cells. They'll throw that old argument at you. But at conception, the trajectory is set. Sorry, it's done. That's when it begins. And why are so many black children? Does it have to do with a breakdown of the nuclear family, which, as we know, that is part of the Marxist ideology, the breakdown of the nuclear family, and that's what it seems they're pushing for now?
Well, yeah, it does have to do with that, but the reality is that when you have these, like we'll take New York, for instance, as I said, 80 plus percent, up to 90% of all Planned Parenthoods are in black communities and within walking distance. And so what they do is they basically get all of these young black girls to believe that Planned Parenthood and abortion can be used as contraceptive. And so they grow up with abortion being used as contraceptive and believing that because it is just a clump of cells, no big deal. By the time a lot of these young girls, especially in New York, are 20 years old, by the time they're 20, they've had, and pardon me for being a little bit crude here, but I want your listeners to really get a view of what's happening here in the black community especially. They've had, in many cases, between 12 and 18 abortions by the time they're 20.
Wow.
And that's a scourge. You can imagine that poor young lady's body. The womb can't take that kind of trauma.
Right.
And so when that young lady does decide to settle down and get married, and later in life decides that she wants to have children, it's exceptionally difficult or impossible, and it really causes a lot of problems.
Now, who? I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
That's the real issue.
Wow. Kevin McGary, every black life matters. So who pays for all these abortions? Because these are poor communities.
Well, a lot of it is being funded by our federal government. You see now they're passing all of these, build back better, build back more, build back whatever.
Yeah, right.
Build back Marxism bills that they're putting in. And all of these spending bills that they're passing and have passed for the past several decades have had generous, quite gratuitous funding categories for Planned Parenthood in them. They want to continue to expand funding for the extermination of black babies. Now, the Democrats, leftist progressives will tell you, no, we love the black community. We're in here for blacks. We're the ones that are standing up for the black community. But the reality is they're the ones that are overzealous to exterminate blacks and disproportionately target blacks by way of Planned Parenthood. So we hear the lip service. We get it. We hear the lip service. But the reality is on the ground, our community, black and brown communities, are being exterminated, targeted, strategically targeted by the leftist progressive ranks with these gratuitous funding initiatives to literally exterminate and depopulate our communities. And it's really black genocide. Jesse Jackson called it that in the 1970s before he ran for president the first time. And then, of course, when he started to run for president, they had him change his tune. If he wanted any funding, he needed to change his tune on black genocide and Planned Parenthood, and he did. And ever since then, he's been pro-abort. But the reality is that it's black genocide is what it is. It's been like that for many, many decades now.
Kevin McGary, every black life matters. So I've got to ask you, when it comes to the black communities, and it's always blamed on the Republicans. Well, the Republicans are destroying black communities. But the black communities seem to be in dire straits in Democratic run areas. What is causing the disconnect? Now, I know a lot more black Americans are coming around and saying, wait just a minute, as was proven by the number of votes Donald Trump got this last time. But what is causing the oppression in the black communities, if you can name a few different things? Because I've always wondered where the truth lies.
Yeah, two primary things that social anthropologists and cultural anthropologists say are the biggest determinants for crime and poverty in any community. And so I'll just say that outright. But these are especially notable in the black community. Number one, fatherhood, fatherlessness in particular. And so if we were to focus on fatherhood, we can reduce crime and poverty by upwards of 70%. Okay.
Wow.
And so we have fatherhood initiatives to encourage fathers. We understand that because of the hookup culture that we have now, in many cases, an overwhelming number of cases, it's unrealistic to say that the nuclear family setting is realistic for a lot of fathers. However, to just remain connected to your children, just so they know who you are, just so you connected with periodically, so you remain connected to your children. It's not too much to ask. That as well can help reduce significantly crime and poverty. Okay. Number two, educational choices. So, and this is not rocket science, folks. This is social and cultural anthropologists have confirmed that these two factors reduce crime and poverty. School choice, having the ability to have multiple educational choices, because everybody learns at a different rate, at a different level, in different learning environments. We need, and especially within the black community, we need the ability to leverage and send our children to school platforms, to educational platforms that they will be able to excel. The cookie cutter public school system that right now our children are handcuffed to is not the most effective way to get our children to learn. And these leftist progressives know, they know that, and they know that this is detrimental to our community, but they don't care. So the fact is that this is how they get their funding for their next campaign, and they are perfectly happy with keeping black and brown communities tethered to the public school system, because that's where the schools, the teachers unions get their money, and that's what funds their campaign. So they're perfectly happy to keep the black and brown. And if you ask them, do their children and their grandchildren go to these public school systems? They tell you no. They go to this private school, this parochial school, this other school, this charter school, blah blah blah.
Yep.
And then you say, well, certainly you'll stand up for our children. Well, no. We can't take away the the public school system, we can't, open the door where everybody can go to these other platforms. No, we need to keep a healthy, so we make these excuses
right
on the backs of black and brown students.
Yep.
This is not right. You want to see white privilege? You want to see privilege? That's privilege.
Yep.
For me and my children, we're going to go to private schools and charter schools. Oh, but for you black and brown students, no. You have to stay in the public school system. That's privilege.
Yep. Absolutely. Well put. We're talking with Kevin McGary, Every Black Life Matters. And by the way, you can get more information at EveryBLM.com. That is the website, correct? EveryBLM.com.
That is correct. EveryBLM.com. Please visit us. We have partnership programs there. We love your support. We need your prayers. The other thing that we have there is go to our resources column. We have COVID resources, exemption letters, attorneys, the truth about COVID, ivermectin resources. We have all kinds of things there. Body autonomy, body freedom is very, very important for us. We want to make sure that everybody remains free. So go there and get some COVID facts for you. And then as well, we have CRT resources there.
Yeah.
With CRT exemption letters. CRT letters already pre-filled, so you can become an activist for CRT as well.
Now, that's great. Now, in my area that we're in, we have mostly white schools, but this critical race theory this is a resource for all Americans, I would imagine, black, white, Asian,
Absolutely.
Whatever. This is
Absolutely.
This is EveryBLM.com, EveryBLM.com. What do you think about this push? Why is this sudden push for critical race theory and the misrepresentation of what it is so profound now? First of all, why don't you define, because you can and you know what critical race theory does in our schools?
What it does is it pits one group of people against another. It is the epitome of racism and hatred. It causes racial division and hatred. It pits blacks against whites. It pits every other ethnicity against white students. And it does it on the backdrop of a completely false narrative.
Yep.
It basically charges that all whites, past, present, and future, are complicit with slavery. And all whites are oppressive. All whites are victimizers. All whites are derelicts and had something to do with that. And therefore, they are irredeemable. In other words, there's nothing that they can say, do, think, act, or be a part of that would ever be able to that they'll be able to repay for the scourge of slavery. And so this is the kind of evil, hateful, demented thinking that they want to teach our children under the guise of real history.
Right.
And this is, of course, demented, hateful, and racist.
Yep.
And it's important that our parents get involved and not have their children learn how to hate other people.
Amen to that. And then you've got Nicole Hannah-Jones, New York Times Magazine, and the 1619 Project, which one person and the magazine seem to be able to convince the entire nation that this should be part of curriculum, that America began with slavery in 1619. What say you about that project?
Well, what's interesting about that project is even leftist, progressive historians have completely debunked the 1619 Project as historically inaccurate, as flawed, as completely fraudulent. Now, these are leftist academics and academians. They said, look, we'd love to give you your props on this, Nicole, but this is so flawed. This is not even, it's laughable. So the reality is 1619, you have to go when a country actually started.
Right.
Our country actually literally started in 1776.
Yes.
That's when we actually formed. That's when we actually colonized. You can't say when somebody landed here.
Right.
This is preposterous. All the notions are just preposterous. It's ridiculous, and all of it is grievance. It's covetous. It's guilt-ridden. It's again, it's what they want to force on everybody is this whole idea of hate and lack of redemption.
Right.
Now, here's I don't know how much time we have left.
No, you whatever. I'm loving this. I'm loving this, Kevin. Okay. Go right ahead.
So here, let me leave. Let me. This is what I'd like to leave your listeners with. Here, this is a simple exercise that any and all of your listeners can do.
Great.
This is something I'd like to leave you with.
Okay.
So when we have prisoners that go to prison, and we as Americans, we say, look, we want the ability that when somebody does their time, we want them to say, okay, when you come out of prison, we're going to give you every opportunity to prove that you've been redeemed. We're not going to hold your past sins against you. You've done your time. We're going to try to, reincorporate you into society. We're going to give you every opportunity to prove that you've been redeemed. We're going to help you to be redeemed within our home, within our culture, within our community, and we're going to give you every opportunity to prove that. Right? That's what we've done as Americans. We say, look, we're not going to hold your past sins against you. Is that right?
Right.
Number two. When we had our 9/11 terrorist attack from Middle Easterners, President Bush warned us and had us all agree that we would not hold and generalize those terrorist atrocities against everybody from the Middle East. He said, look, these were this handful of people from the Middle East. It would be unfair and it would be racist for us to generalize and say everybody from the Middle East is a terrorist. And we all agreed as Americans, we will not generalize, we will not hold this against everybody from the Middle East and call them all terrorists, right? So that's number 2 data point. Number 3 data point. Last year, when we had this virus from China, we had President Trump, and he says, look, the virus is from China. It's from China, but, it would be unfair. It'd be unfair for us to hold, just because it's from China, to hold everybody accountable for it. So let's not, we're not going to, everybody of Asian descent, it would be unfair for us to do this. But I'm telling you, it's from China. He kept saying that.
Right.
And he was correct. It's from China, but it was also correct. It would be unfair and be racist for us as a country to hold everybody from Asian descent culpable for that. So those are 3 specific data points where, number 1, prisoners, we allow them to be redeemed. Number 2, and the other 2, we're not going to make generalizations and hold everybody culpable for the sins of a few. Now, but when it comes to CRT, what we're saying is, look, white people, you're completely irredeemable. And we're going to hold every white person completely culpable for the sins of your fathers, your grandfathers, and as a matter of fact, grandchildren not yet born, we're going to hold them culpable for the things of the 1800s. How in the world does this make sense?
Wow.
Does this have any logic whatsoever for any American when we have these few simple examples I just given you off the top? You can probably come up with 1,000 more.
Wow.
How do we make any kind of logical sense out of this now?
Wow. That makes so much sense. I love the way you boiled that down. That makes so much sense. You're absolutely right. And I think the way the left is framing it, and I've gotten in arguments online with people about CRT, and this is with white people, virtue signaling white people. Well, CRT is just real history. Why are you so afraid, they say, of real history? And I'm like, no, it's not. I've talked to many of my black friends and guests who say it's not. It's divisive. And you, again, have shown proof positive what this is, and you've boiled it down to redemption. And that makes so much sense. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I am bookmarking EveryBLM.com because that's going to be a go-to site for me from now on, Kevin McGary. I'll tell you that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother. I'd love to have you as a partner. We have a partner site there. We have all kinds of resources there. We didn't amass the $10 billion that had that BLM amassed in just a few months last year. But certainly we would love to have any support, certainly the prayers of the American people. Anybody that can come alongside of us and help us and support us. We go around the country. We do remnant rising workshops. We'll come to your local communities. We do full-day workshops, fully apprise everybody as to what critical race theory is, what these other demented theologies and theories are, Black liberation theology, social justice. We completely deconstruct them all, and we help empower your communities with what these things are, how to deal with them, how to be fully empowered, how to go forth with power, vigor, and diligence as you begin to encounter your communities, neighbors, and friends, and have discussions about these very, very vital things that are encroaching upon our freedoms.
Wow, you are a great American. And I want to mention a couple of your books here. The War on Women, From Root to the Fruit, From Root to Fruit, Which Side Are You On? And Justly Justice, Social Justice, Racial Justice, Human Rights, Done, which means we've got all that. And now the left is squandering it in the name of Marxism, control, power.
Yep. So those books are they're available on Amazon. The one, The War on Women, just so people understand what that context, what that's about. That was written. It's especially important for people of faith because it connects Genesis 3:15 to everything socially and culturally that we're going through right now.
Yep.
Connects all of the dots from the Garden of Eden all the way to today. So it covers feminism, radical feminism, everything socially and culturally, including racism, CRT, intersectionality, just everything. Even James Cone, Saul Alinsky, Margaret Sanger. I mean, it's
wow.
It's all in there. It connects the dots historically, socially, and everything's there.
I love it. Well, there's another must read for my book list. I'm getting a pretty long. I'm getting a pretty long book list, Kevin. You're right up there now. I'll tell you. And I really appreciate your time, sir. You're a great man, and you've got a great mission. And EveryBLM.com. Every Black Life Matters is the website. Check it out. And I really, really appreciate it, and hope we can have you back again sometime, sir.
I'd love to. Anytime, John. We've got some great articles. I don't know if you've seen the recent ones. I got a great one I just wrote and published yesterday about the guy in Fort Worth who said that he'd come back with 1,000 soldiers with him if they take away CRT in the school district.
Right.
Had a response for that.
Yep.
And I had some other ones that you may want to take a look at too. So if you want to get me back in the next week or so, I'd gladly do that. So anyway, take a look at some of the recent articles we've done. Gladly come back anytime, John.
All right, my friend. You take care. It's Kevin McGary. Every Black Life Matters, EveryBLM.com. Have a great weekend, sir.
All right. God bless you. You too, John.
God bless you.